YouTube Music is a music app made by YouTube. And you can use Google Assistant to play your songs. Like, hey Google, play sexy mood music. Yeah. Get YouTube Music Premium. Try 1 month free.
Racing twilight on and on, without a clue, without a sign, without grasping yet the real question to be asked. Where have I been? I'm a shapeshifter at Poe's masquerade, hiding both face and mind, all free for you to draw. What else should I be? Please don't take off my mask, revealing dark.
You're listening to the Zetetic newscast on the Zetetic News Network with your hosts, Dave, and Xavier Diamant. Proceed by inquiry.
All right, welcome to episode 36 of the Zetetic Newscast. We're your hosts, Dave, and Xavier Diamant. It is July the 8th, 2022, and we are live, broadcasting across the plane on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and Theta.tv. Thank you guys for joining us. We've got an awesome show planned for you guys today. Just want to do a couple housekeeping items and sort of kick the conversation off. First of all, this might be the last full show for a little while. I'm expecting a newborn, here in the next few weeks. So I'm probably going to take a little time off, although I'll be taking some time off of the legacy job. And hopefully we'll have some gaps where we can do some like cyber chats or other shorter pieces. I might be able to focus on some other things that I've wanted to get done, like chapterizing all of our shows, right. Maybe clipping up some of our shows and uploading those. So look out for that. We are, if you look at the top bar, we're on BitChute, Theta TV, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, BitTube, Gab. We have an RSS feed, a podcast feed, Rumble, and our website, zetetic.news, where we try to bring all this stuff together and more. You can check out the menu bar. We've got live channels, Flat Earth Debate, InfoWars, different news aggregator sections, and we're always adding to this as well. We recently added Payman Motahede, the president founder of Freedom Law School, to the Taxes and Lawfare page. We're trying to get Adam Green from No More News on the show. He actually might call in today. I hope we reach out to him. But if not, that's cool. We can set up a time. But we like his content. Yeah, we'll put it right next to the Alex Jones channel on Zetetic.news. Just so you have the that's real fair and balanced if you want to go the Fox News route. But but why not? Why not? Why exclude a news source if there's some truth to it, I think. And there certainly is with what Adam's bringing to the table. So Xavier's a lot more familiar with his work. I did listen to Adam's show, at least maybe 45 minutes to an hour of it yesterday. Dropped a comment here and there. So anyways, shout out to Adam Green and No More News. We're going to set up an embed just like we've done here, with Freedom Law School. If you're just listening, on the video component we're showing our website, where we've got the the YouTube video gallery of different stuff. So that's that. Also, last episode we talked a little bit about some of the recent updates with Theta. They did announce that they pushed an update to all the edge nodes, which added decentralized video encoding that supports the Theta Video API. And I talked about this before, not just on the last show, but on previous shows about the Theta Video API. That's kind of like where we're headed with our premium content and the integration at Zetetic.news, so that we can be independent from censorship and other kinds of nefarious shadow banning types of activities. And not only can we control the sort of the financial side of things, but possibly down the road, our users could be compensated for engaging with our content. And this is a good next step, because what this does is it starts to pay people who are running edge nodes for not just these proof of concept jobs that they've been doing, which you don't get paid very much for, but it opens it up to the market to where someone like Zetetic.news can go to the Theta Video API, send it some T-Fuel, and then that gets distributed. I don't know exactly how, but it gets distributed to the edge node operators who are actually responsible for the relaying and or storing of the video content that you're hosting there. So, there's more details to come about this, but I guess all the edge nodes now are updated if they're running, and they'll start to see more jobs, which means more T-Fuel for them. And of course, this gets us closer to that point where, we're truly recycling all of our T-Fuel, not all of it, but we're recycling the T-Fuel back into the operation itself to sort of prove out and build really the first next generation news network powered by the Theta blockchain, which is one of our other taglines. The other one, of course, being proceed by inquiry, which, dovetails into the broader conversation today. Which, of course, there's no legal advice, no financial advice. None of us are anybody. We might as well be nobody. But it's entertainment purposes only, education purposes only. We're actors, etc. All those disclaimers. Proceed by inquiry, but maybe there's something to some of the information we're bringing to the table. So that's housekeeping. To kick off the conversation, I was thinking about what the word of the day should be. And it's not Thursday. It's not Thesaurus Thursday. It's Friday. But our word of the day is guide. And anybody listening to this is probably, it's probably obvious why we picked that term, because of the event earlier this week where the Georgia Guidestones were sort of not inexplicably exploded, but I don't think there's a formal explanation other than it was an explosion, and we have some video clips of a car driving at the same time. And so I thought this is a good word because, its meaning is to obviously lead, direct. Obviously, the physical definition is a physical object that points you a certain way. But it's also sort of like, supposed to show you the way. And so more than just like a physical direction, it could be more of like
almost like a forceful, like, reproach, because that's embedded into it. It's like, I'm showing you the way because you're doing something wrong, kind of. Guidance comes to mind of, it's like, this CDC guidance. There's a little bit of a force behind that.
Well, they always provide their recommendations, and I was talking to my wife earlier today about the conversation we had when we were hanging out this past weekend about genetic counseling, and how we know some folks who are involved in this industry, and one time they were asked about, well, do you recommend abortions based on some of these genetic factors that you're supposedly assaying? So no, we don't recommend that. It's just like, we just provide the guidance. Like, we provide you the information and let you make your own decision. It's like, okay, sure, yeah. But like mid 14th century, one who shows the way, a verbal noun for guider, in books titles from 1610s, meaning book of information on local sites for dummies, or like Idiot's Guide to, that sort of thing. And
literally guide ass.
Right. And so when in that context, right, like, a lot of people don't even know what the Georgia Guidestones are until today or this week. right? And I found an old chat I had with a friend back in 2008 where he had learned about the Guidestones. He's like, really? This is like a monument that people stop by and in Georgia, and wow, like I feel like driving my truck down there right now and busting it down because
what it says on there.
exactly. So it's a guide stone and it's showing us the way. It's like the future for dummies, like this is all we got to do is just these tenets. But I'm trying to pull up and
it was commissioned by some shadowy figure that used a pseudonym, and they could be referring to sort of the whole Rosicrucian epoch based take on history, and that these elite leaders are going to tame the dragon or something of world population and bring it in balance within nature.
Yeah, you can look up the Wikipedia, the different inscriptions. I won't go over them. They have obvious exterministic undertones and world government undertones. If you're not familiar with them, I mean, this is like world conspiracy 101. What I found most interesting in the Wikipedia, and of course Wikipedia is barely an information source as far as like exposing who might be behind this, but it's all been kept pretty, under wraps. Nobody really knows who it was, although Alex Jones claims it was Ted Turner.
Or someone affiliated with him.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find the part where the actual granite company was talking about their interaction with this guy who is named, but it's under, pseudonym. In June 1979, a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans. Joe Findley of Elberton Granite believed that Christian was a nut and attempted to discourage him by providing a price quote for the commission, which was several times higher than any project the company had previously taken, explaining that the Guidestones would require additional tools and consultants. To Findley's surprise, he just accepted the quote like on the spot. Mm-hmm. And what was really fascinating to me also reading through this is the first act of vandalism took place in the same year that chat I mentioned a minute ago was had, 2008. And it was only after then that they set up cameras. Mm-hmm. And so then you go over to, where is it? Let's look at the footage. So here's the footage that was released by the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, which obviously anytime you get a video release from an FBI or a SDI or
it's showing you the least important
CIA, and they do that jump cut right at the explosion.
Exactly.
Why? The other camera's still running.
Right. Because you'd be able to deduce from that the ballistics,
where it might be coming from.
Yeah, there's some sort of impact.
Yeah, there's this cloud back here. Let's see if I can pause it. See back here under this lamp?
Right.
Some suggested it was like a RPG.
Right.
Which, let's be real, guys. If these things are like on the black market in Iraq, they are on the black market in America too.
Notice the fisheye lens attribute to this camera.
Yeah.
Oh, see the curve.
Yeah. We got some space news coming up on the show today as well, but we don't have to get off on that jag right now.
Continent-sized guidestones.
Yeah, it's curve everywhere. But yeah, I mean, the Guidestones are guiding us where exactly? I mean, if it's some wealthy proprietor like Ted Turner, who's arguably in control of quite a deal of, resources and human resources and capital and land and stuff like that, have they really, have they achieved the goal? what does this symbolize? You know, the destruction of it. Do you know? It's also interesting that what there was like a candidate for, I think, some high office in Georgia who actually stated in her campaign that she wants to see this thing destroyed.
It's interesting.
But then she came out and said, you know, if it was vandalism, then those people should be brought to justice.
So it is, as long as there's an approved destruction and vandalism by the state, it's okay. Right.
Which did happen for safety reasons.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think that we have to go after more than just the Guidestones when it comes to the guidance that they're forecasting.
Right.
You know, because you know there's lots of echelonic, oligocentric blocks of you know, coalitions and well-resourced bodies that may want to just destroy the evidence. Be like, we can't have people remembering that we commissioned these.
Well, what's
things,
interesting
you know?
is there's a time capsule 6 feet underneath,
And that remains.
and I forget if there was an inscription as to what year it was to be opened, or was it left blank?
Later in the century, 2070 or something. It was later on.
And that's, you know, if they dug that up and took that away, you know, there's not, GBI is not going to release any video of that.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, it's very kind of ominous in a way, because what sort of monuments are destroyed for what reasons at any given time? It's usually to eradicate a legacy, or censor history, or, you know, stigmatize anyone who brings up things that are pertaining to the monument or the statue or
Well, some had
memorial.
pointed out that the Hebrew side, because the inscription is written in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, traditional Chinese, and Russian. It says the languages were chosen because they represented most of humanity, while Hebrew was chosen because of its connections to Judaism and Christianity. You know, how do they know this? How is this in the Wikipedia if this guy is a pseudonym and we only have like circumstantial musings about him from the people who actually erected it? I mean, what's the citation here? Stone Bear Note for the Future. This is an old news article. 6 granite monoliths stand.
I see it. The languages were chosen because they represent the largest section of humanity. In Hebrew, quote, because of its association with the Judeo-Christian tradition.
But I mean,
and with an appreciation for scholarship. Okay, that's pretty interesting there. So it's almost like...
But this was published in some Elberton newspaper. That guy, Christian or whatever his pseudonym was, he's not quoted here unless he just like told the newspaper that this is why, how, you know, like, hey, I'm going to tell you what it's all about, but my identity's not to be revealed. And they went along with that. I mean, that's what I'm inferring from this. You know, it's not like an actual quotation.
From the person who commissioned it.
So
right?
to me, it was whitewashed from the beginning. You know, obviously, it's kind of like if you ask the Denver International Airport what the meanings are behind their murals. Oh, it's just this painted, you know, this artist's interpretation. The blue horse doesn't mean anything. Yeah, nothing nefarious. The Freemasonic capstone there, nothing. You know, it was just dedicated.
Yeah, I mean, these are just
so spooky.
Just coincidences, right?
Do you think this is accelerating the mass awakening to the symbolism and sort of the gang signs everywhere from this world mafia?
I think that this is an indication that there is a growing awareness and a substantiated discontentment against elite symbology that's sort of paraded around in everyone's face, you know, as the governing sigils over society and human civilization. You know, I think that there is an awakening to the use of symbols and coded language as a basis for deception, and ends justify the means, and the apocalypse justifies the prophecies, agenda fulfillment, self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah, Adam Green talked about that a bit, talking about, actually Alex Jones and
way back in the day.
What is it? The third temple prophecy, and how it is being fulfilled. And he said something that really struck me, was, I thought, very poignant. He said, prophecy is predictive programming.
That's sort of...
it's like you write it down so that you can manifest it, and that's kind of like their modus operandi.
Yeah, I mean, it's a script. It's a sort of blueprint, encoded. You could even call it sort of an egregoric manifestation text.
Well, but they build this eschatology around it, this belief system, and they have to make it come true.
Right, because that's what justifies the sort of craziness in the first place.
Yeah. Of
predicting such, obscene and, arcanely ordained things,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's that need to reify and edify this really kind of superiority complex.
Yeah.
That, we can predict the future, and we're going to decide everyone's destiny based on our preferences and attitudes and proclivities, and it's this very the term supremacy is sort of overused, but I think that it's hegemonic hubris is really what it is at the end of the day. That we can create a hegemony, and we deserve to be proud to lord it over everyone, and this is how we brag about our conquest.
Yeah, I wish we had a call in the queue, because I'd love to get some thoughts from the metaverse about the Guidestones and their destruction, what you think it means. But we don't have anybody in the queue yet, which is cool. But I should mention, I didn't in the intro, our number is 1-855-877-5112, and we're awarding the first and last callers in the queue on today's show with 100 T-Fuel. So there's your compensation drives motivation. Take a work break and come call ZNN and weigh in on this. Yeah. But yeah, I've thought about the Guidestones since at least 2008, as mentioned, and that's really when I started to become aware of the broader conspiracy, let's call it. And I think it's a horrible symbol, and obviously, whether it was Ted Turner, putting down on words what the Round Table wants to do or not, you don't even need to look at the Guidestones to see that that's what they want to do. They're out there saying it to your face, like the whole deindustrialization, the disruption of the supply chain, the commitment to phase out combustion vehicles by like 2035 or something like that.
That's absurd.
I mean, you're talking about a genocide. You're talking about ending a way of life for vast millions of people. And man, they got a lot of work to do, because there are way more than 500 million people on the plains. So I don't think their plan is going very well, and I personally really enjoyed seeing that explosion. I just would rather see longer, more high def. I want interviews with who blew it up. I want to know. I want the time capsule dug up. I want to see what's going on there. Mm-hmm. And overall, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I celebrated.
It's a repudiation of an oligarchical symbol. So I think in that sense, it is a positive. But there's plenty more monuments and statues and things that are brought up that have yet to be dismantled.
Absolutely.
In this way. So, and there's plenty more out there. The Washington Monument, the Vatican Monument.
Oh my God! Can you
All
imagine
these
the
obelisks,
11 miles or whatever number of miles of basement like libraries and so on underneath the Vatican? Yeah, let's get in there.
Yeah. Let's try and get in there. That would be good. And there's probably dozens more that are of similar size.
How about the truth of old world constructions?
Right.
And maybe that's a good segue to one of the other big topics I wanted to bring up, and that is, broadly speaking, the world cover-up. Like, literally the world cover-up. Like, not just the shape of it, but, for example, here's a picture
There you go.
from Sintra, Portugal. This is supposedly a well. Look at there's a mosaic at the bottom of that thing. Okay, it says this well was never built to store water, but rather for secret ceremonial purposes. It's full of esoteric themed symbols and everything related to alchemy, occult sciences, astrology, esotericism, Freemasonry, Templars, and Rosicrucians.
Right.
And look at I'd like to see like a drone shot of what, but that's obviously like drilled into the bedrock.
Holy moly.
What kind of effort? No wonder they're called the Freemasons, all the stonemasons and whatnot. Because they probably hold the secrets to what's going on with all this old world construction. Mm-hmm. And how come these very primitive people can do things that we just can't even imagine right now?
Well, because they probably weren't so primitive. Yeah.
Here's another one. Oh, and I wanted to bring this up to you because we were talking about this when we were hanging out. These supposed 19th century constructions that were, they were just up.
Yeah.
And we had them for a short period of time, and then they were demolished, and in their wake are like these hideous steel glass boxes.
Yep.
But what I want to bring up is, there's all this city architecture that we could talk about, like the New York subway system,
the Philadelphia City Hall.
There's like a mental institution out in Utah, I think you talked about, or one of the big Mormon churches.
Yep.
But the one I want to talk about with you on the weekend is the World's Fair.
Absolutely.
Which we maybe touched on a little bit in some of our prior shows, but not really delved deep. But the World's Fair, if you want to like blow your own mind, go look into that. And of course, they still have these World's Fairs, supposedly, but not like they did back in the day.
Right. And how was Melbourne, Australia constructed again? Melbourne is another great one.
Well, talk about it.
Well, because the supposed population of Australia during the time was mostly Aboriginals. Very, very few people who you would anticipate build these kind of things were able to build them, apparently without a whole lot of resistance, inexplicably. Again, it's like how are these things constructed with the present populations during the time?
Yeah, we got a couple of comments here from Nano CBD making 2 points. The Georgia Guidestones are exactly 666 miles from the United Nations in New York City.
That's right.
And the Washington Monument is 555 feet above ground and 111 feet underground. So, do the math.
Do the math.
Yeah, it's just uncanny. But these the World's Fair and these different like exhibitions took place in the early part of the 1900s and late part of the 1800s. And these like empty country lands where they just constructed these massive and palatial buildings and constructions. And you know what they'll tell you is like, oh yeah, it was all like sort of like plaster of Paris and was it? I don't know.
Come on. These things were like power stations or something that we just sort of repurposed and put, glass windows in and, made it into something that could be inhabited. But I mean, we have no idea the scale of personage that actually built this. We have an inkling that they were significantly larger. But if you've ever seen the movie Prometheus, excluding all the sort of space sci-fi stuff, the message of that film kind of eerily resembles some of the possibility of construction on this scale with methods that we hitherto cannot replicate. So, I mean, it begs the question, like, what else is being hidden in terms of not just history, but perhaps the realm in which we reside? If you think that news is fake, which it certainly is, vast preponderance of the time on especially in the mainstream, think about how bad mainline history is.
Well, what blows my mind, right, is and we're going to maybe a good segue to, because to me, the old world construction cover-up conspiracy ties right into the sort of, let's call it the flat Earth cover-up conspiracy,
or the realmist,
the realm, the planate, topic of discussion.
Mm-hmm. Water is a huge giveaway.
Well, water is a massive giveaway, but what I was going to say is the conception of the world given to us from the astrophysicists is this spherical, close to 26,000 miles around ball, which you can then calculate exactly if you want to, dig a hole to China from one end to the other, how much space is in between one side of the other, right? And that's their conception of, and of course we can't do that, right? Because of the whole magma, phenomenon, that's molten nickel ball or whatever that's in the center.
They allege.
Right. But we've only ever drilled 8 or 9 miles deep. And we've also been able to explore vast cavernous structures. I mean, they're growing crystals out of these things that are the size of a double doorway,
Right.
And there are still civilizations, let's say tribes, whatever you want to call them, in places that have really not come into contact at all with, quote, modern civilization. So if you get your head around the idea that maybe the Earth isn't the spinning ball that's 26,000 miles around with a molten core center, and that it's actually something hitherto unexplored,
right,
as far as its vastness in the horizontal directions, we have no idea how deep it is either,
right,
and how much cavernous. What blows my mind too is we use a well, and I'm walking on dry land, but there's just like a straw, like 100-foot straw, and underneath there's just water, right? So we have to totally change our conception of, obviously where we came from, what has been here before, but like what we're on, what's below us, what's above, Well,
yeah,
you have to deprogram that.
You have to take away the modernist assumption and the epistemological hubris that says, oh yeah, we have amazing methods that can figure just about everything out. We know everything there is to know about XYZ, and we certainly know a lot more than we can prove empirically or forensically about the sky, and just the beginning of everything. And I mean, it's, if you look at like the Big Bang, like this is cosmic egg theory. It goes back to Kabbalah, the Ein Sof, contracting and then producing creation. I mean, it's cosmo-mythological stuff. It's not in any way demonstrable. And so looking at actually the influences of spiritual alchemy on the sciences, it's replete, and it goes back hundreds of years. So what you think is quote unquote hard sciences